Hello, everyone. Joe Ruggio with Socially Joe. Thank you again for listening to Socially Joe. And we are on episode 6. Yes, counting. Episode 6 we're on right now. So I actually, as promised, I told you once a month I'm going to bring on a nonprofit. And we're going to talk about with the nonprofit person on what they focus on, how you can help and support them, and go on from there. So with that, I have Doug Walker from Satchels on the phone joining me today. So Doug, I'm going to turn it over to you a little bit right now. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and about Satchels?
Okay. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me on.
Mm-hmm.
I've been involved with animal rescue for a little over 10 years. I started out small time working at local shelters as a volunteer in my days off and stuff like that. And then I kind of progressed through the steps and just kind of kept moving up and up and up. I've been with Satchels for about 2.5 years. Prior to that, I was with a boarding facility in Pennsylvania where we did overnight boarding, daycare, mobile grooming, in-house grooming, pet sitting, pet walking. We did it all. It was a great job, but I still felt that yearning in my heart. I missed the rescue world. At the end of the day with the boarding facility, the dogs all had a nice home to go to. They were loved. They were taken care of. And I kind of reached out. I actually adopted a dog from Satchels about 6 years ago. And I reached out to Satchels to see if there was any opportunity of me joining with Satchels. Satchels is right along my mission. It's the exact type of rescue that I do. And I was fortunate enough to be able to be hired on as the director of operations and oversee the daily shelter, the vetting, the fostering, the pulling the dogs, dealing with the county shelters, stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm really grateful to be with Satchels. And we're truly different than most other rescues.
Awesome. And we'll kind of go into that a little bit more. But I just a side note, because I didn't know this, but you said you were up in the PA area at a boarding house. What part of PA were you in?
I was right outside of Reading, a town called Birdsboro.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that. I'm originally from the Philadelphia side as well, so PA. So you weren't. I had family that lived in Reading, so I knew exactly where that was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of our clients actually were in Philly, and we a lot of them were along Main Line, and we offered something that no other boarding facilities did, is we would drive and to pick up the dog, bring it back to the boarding facility, and then deliver it back home when they got back from their long weekend or vacation. So.
That's awesome. So, all right. Well, now I got to know a little bit more about you and how you came from the PA side down here. Yeah, we're brothers from the same side.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's go through the questions now. So, with that, I know you mentioned Satchels, and actually, to tell you the truth to the listeners, and I'll bring this onto a different podcast. So I'm not going to go too much involved in it, but I actually am part of a nonprofit, work for profit, Florida Fabulous 50, and we actually brought on Satchels to help fundraise money for them. So I know of Satchels. I know you've come to a couple of the events that we've hosted and had, but obviously my listeners don't know about Satchels. So tell us what Satchels is and makes them different from any other shelter in the area.
Absolutely, and I could talk about this all day. We are very unique. If you do an internet search and you look at rescues, most rescues concentrate on a certain type of breed or a certain age or a certain size. Satchels, we're considered in our community as a special needs rescue. We do extreme medical or we do behavioral issues. Now, a lot of rescues will not take on behavioral issues. As far as the extreme medical, we do stuff like FHO surgeries, and I'm sure not a lot of people will know that, heartworm treatment. It's very expensive, and the rehabilitating time for the dogs or the cats can run into, possibly 3-4 months at a time. Most rescues don't look at holding a dog that long. Our behavioral issues, we deal with mild aggression, extreme dog-on-dog aggression, resource guarding, food guarding. It takes time to rehabilitate a dog and train them that everything's going to be okay. They just can relax and have a normal life. We are also a sanctuary, Joe. I don't say that any of our dogs are non-adoptable, but I do have 4 or 5 dogs there that, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to find the right home for them.
Okay.
But yeah, we have a 2-acre yard and we have an acre yard. And these dogs, all of them, get out 4, sometimes 5 times a day. That's totally different than most rescues. I mean, most other rescues, dogs are lucky if they get out twice a day. We're getting ours out 4 to 5 times a day. Plus, I have a very dedicated volunteer staff that's able to come by and take the dogs on walks. They take them on car rides, that type of stuff. So it's those things that sets the stage that separates us from other rescues. I could go on and on and on. We're also a sanctuary. Once we take a dog into our rescue, the dog is us. It's safe, even if it's there its entire life. We do not euthanize a dog for anything. It's kind of, we've all been bitten 3 or 4 times, but it's always our mistake. We know better and it happens, and we move on. Now, most rescues would not take on any type of case like that. But you know what? Deep inside, these guys deserve a second chance, just like everybody else.
Yeah,
And that's the
had,
main thing.
Yeah, and I remember as we were talking at the networking events and all this other stuff, is you made one valid point: is Satchels is a no-kill shelter or sanctuary. So that is a good thing that I've heard about Satchels in itself. But with that, what is the one thing that Satchels needs more than anything at this time? Obviously, because there is it food, is it funding, is it volunteers, is it supplies? What's the one thing that Satchels really needs help with at any given time?
Yes on all of that. But I tell you what we really need is we need some funding. We would like to increase our staff. We have 56 dogs and 38 cats currently at our shelter. Now, with our dogs, we have the 2 yards. None of our dogs can go in the yard together. So if you do the math, we're getting our dogs out 4 to 5 times a day, rotating them back and forth. At no given time do I ever have more than 2 staff members there. So you can see the amount of work that we're going through there to make sure that all of these dogs get out, they're being taken care of. We're cleaning the kennels. We're cleaning everything. We're doing laundry. We're doing dishes. And I have volunteers occasionally that will come in and help with that kind of stuff. But what we'd really like to do is be able to increase the staff some, which is part of the fundraising that we really need. Now, a lot of people don't like to donate to a rescue or to a resource like us for payroll funding because it's not pretty. It's not glamorous. They want to donate something like to see prettiness around. But if we can increase our staff, it would really, really benefit our residents that we have there.
Well, that's good. That's good to know. And obviously, at least you're getting volunteers to help out too, because if by chance you're not getting the funding, you still want the support of the community and support of volunteerism to help out any way they can, either if it's just rotating the dogs in and out or maintaining laundry or stuff for you. With that, how do you decide whether to take a certain dog or cat when called?
It depends on, now a lot of, we're not breed specific. I mean, if you come to my shelter, you're going to see every breed that you can imagine there, or every mixed breed that you can imagine there. And actually, when Satchels came about 18 years ago, they were one of the first rescues that actually started rescuing pit bulls. And a lot of rescues won't touch pit bulls now either. We were the standard that nobody else wanted to deal with. But once again, we saw the need. If you go to a county shelter now, you'll look at 80 to 90% of their dogs is a pit mix or a bully breed mix of some type. So that's the ones. Now, what I do is I look and if I have space. For instance, a county shelter will call me and they'll say, hey, I have a dog that we picked up yesterday. It got hit by a car. It needs major medical done. A county facility is not funded to get that done. So that's one side that we work on. I evaluate the dog. I'll get hold of my vet. I'll talk with them. If we can treat the dog, we'll go ahead and take the dog in. And a lot of times I call shooting from the hip, because I know the dog's going to be at the vet for probably a week, maybe a week and a half. That gives me time to create room or gives me time to line up a foster.
Gotcha.
If it's a behavioral issue, now a county shelter, if they bring in a dog as a stray or an owner surrender and the dog so much as growls at a volunteer or a staff member, the dog is set up to be euthanized. And once again, a lot of other rescues won't deal with that. I will go personally to the county shelter. I'll evaluate the dog. If I have room, I'll take the dog in. And then we'll start working on its behavioral issue, whether it be resource guarding or food guarding, or it's just scared to death, it's uncertain, that type of stuff.
Yeah, and actually, to tell you the truth, to go a little bit more in the behavioral side of it is I actually had my aunt, my mother's sister, had gotten a dog at one time. And it was like, I can't remember, it was like a small dog, not a Chihuahua, like a Chow mix or something like that. And basically, it must have been abused at one time with men, and it hated men with a passion. And with that, it actually had to be put in a separate room, like the bedroom or something, when we had to come to visit, because if not, the thing would be nipping at your heels and everything all the time. And It's sad when you see these things and you hear these things, because no animal should have to be afraid of anything. It should be just relative to be happy and joyful and enjoy its life, and know that, if certain people are coming into its environment, that these people are, part of the family, that it should be like, oh, hey, you're part of the family, you're here, not, oh, I got to protect and growl and bite you. So
right.
That's a sad thing when I see and hear these things. But how long do most animals stay at Satchels?
Well, Joe, that depends. It depends on the situation. It depends on the behavioral situation that they have. It depends on the medical that they have. Obviously, some dogs are going to take longer to trust, and because you're right, that they all come. These dogs are picked up as strays. We don't know what was in their past. So once we get them in, we have to start figuring that out and figuring out, okay, what makes the dog tick? What sets the dog off? And then we have to start working on that. So it varies. I mean, sometimes we'll get a dog in and it could be adopted within 2 or 3 weeks. I had a dog from Lake County that I drove 3 hours to get that needed an FHO surgery. It had been hit by a car and it was going to be euthanized. Very simple surgery, just maybe about a 2-month rehabilitation period. I took her in. Her name was Dahlia. I took her in. Word got out that I had picked up this lab mix. Very sweet girl. And she just got adopted last Saturday. She was only with us about 2.5 months.
Wow.
Which you like that. Now we do have some that have been with us. A lot of our dogs have been with us in the 4 to 5 year period. But it's home for them. They're getting out 4 to 5 times a day. They're getting 2 great meals a day. They have human contact from 6:30 in the morning till 10 at night. I jokingly tell people they have a better life than my own dogs. But yeah, that's what we do. I mean, a lot of people will say, but I truly believe it, and it's a true belief of mine that we care. We go further than other rescues will go. We take the extra step. We go the extra mile. We have great partners with a vet. We have great partners with veterinarians. I've got them on my speed dial. I could send them a text at 10 o'clock at night and say, hey, what about this? And they're back with me immediately to let me know what to do. So once again, this is another something.
So to go on a little bit about that, when you talk about animals stay at Satchels, where some, call it home and some are adopted right away, that kind of brings up a couple of valid points to break off into there. Is let's go with the first part, is the adoptable part with the non-adoptable part. Is it because you have seen that certain breeds or certain dogs are not being adopted because of their age and stuff? Because I've seen that on TV a lot where they're saying give, the older dogs a home because, obviously you can go out and get a puppy anywhere you can get a puppy, but the older dogs are just being left on the side of the road saying, I have nothing for you anymore. Goodbye. I want to get a puppy. And then they're like yesterday's